welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I am Avatar Jim Williams, and with me is real person Chris King. Sorry, everybody.
Your host, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Bobby the Brain Heenan, right. My apologies, but camera issues today, so it's Avatar Williams, and the man, the legend, Chris King. Chris, yesterday, a lot of fun stuff. We did pretty well yesterday. You were pretty hot on most of the games.
Yeah, we had some good ones. I mean, I feel bad for everybody that jumped on the Old Dominion bandwagon because they won 5 in a row, and everybody was excited when they ran back the opening kickoff for a score against Tulsa. But eventually, Tulsa just ran the ball down Old Dominion's throats, and they killed off the last, I want to say, 6+ minutes of that game to make sure that they covered the line. So I feel bad for everybody that picked the Monarchs, but, if you had listened to us, you wouldn't have picked them to begin with. So that's your own fault.
We can't help it if people do not pay attention to reason.
And then, the NFL games, we talked about it yesterday. Minnesota can't stand prosperity. And look, they gave up a touchdown on the final play of the game to make it a one-score game again.
Yep.
And they still covered, but that's not the point. The fact is they couldn't maintain a 2-touchdown lead. And the Bears basically left a ton of points on the field. I mean, they turned it over 3 times. They coughed it up inside the red zone. They did nothing until that last play of the game. They had a field goal blocked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to wonder, is Matt Nagy going to be fired after that horrible – plus he got a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct. I mean, the Bears just were horrible yesterday, even though they were good on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, I mean, I honestly can't, since the days of Walter Payton, and begin to recall a Bears team that was good on offense.
Well, I mean, I guess they could have. You could consider them quasi good during the Neil Anderson era in the early '90s, but after that. They weren't. And I'm not saying that they were world beaters, but at least they were,
representative.
Yeah, they were at least average.
Well, I guess in Chicago, when it comes to the Bears, average makes it.
True, and I mean, when you get right down to it, like we said, they moved the ball well. They just didn't finish drives. I mean,
most of it was between the 20s. So
yeah, they got that interception near the end of the first half and set up a 4th and 1 or 2, and I have no idea what Fields was doing on that play. Herbert they ran out in motion. They had a guy out there, and he just got sacked because he rolled out and there was nobody open.
Nowhere to throw him to.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what happens with the Bears. They shoot themselves in the foot.
Right.
I mean, that second touchdown drive for Minnesota, they kept getting called for stupid penalties. You had 3rd and 17, and you get called for hitting somebody low.
Well, in that drive alone, they got 2 third down penalties that kept the drive alive.
Right, and that was basically the difference in the game because you figured you give up that touchdown, it makes that last touchdown irrelevant because obviously, but had that not happened, you could have been kicking an extra point going overtime potentially because the Vikings would have had to have punted on either one after either one of those third downs had the Bears imploded.
Absolutely.
And then you got the Browns who,
the COVID Browns, yes.
Do you remember the cardiac kids with Brian Sipe and everybody?
I do remember those, yeah. Sam Ratigliano.
Yep, and it was the curse of Red Right 88 coming back to bite the the Browns last night.
Yeah.
Couldn't move the ball when it mattered after they got that interception late in the fourth quarter where they could have salted the game away. Couldn't get a first down.
Right.
Too much time on the clock for Derek Carr. And now they're in last place in the AFC North at 7-7. The Raiders are 7-7.
Yep.
Both of them probably could be dead in the playoff race when you get right down to it, just because of the fact that everybody else is 8-6 or better.
Well, yeah, their problem is that they have to play the teams that are ahead of them, but they can't really make up any ground on them.
Right.
So that's Cleveland had to win yesterday. They didn't, and honestly, Vegas won, but it's not going to help.
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at who those teams played down the stretch. I mean, next week you've got Cleveland has the unfortunate pleasure had that game. I remember they were supposed to play Saturday. It was moved to yesterday. They have to go to Green Bay on Christmas Day.
Right.
So now you have a short week
And
on
Green
top
Bay.
of it, and you have to play Green Bay at Lambeau Field. The Raiders will be at home to face Denver. Reports say Teddy Bridgewater will not play Sunday.
Right.
After, that horrific injury where they ripped his face mask off and carried him off the field.
Right.
Then in week 17 to start 2022, the Browns will go to Pittsburgh on a Monday night. The Raiders will face none other than the Colts on the road. And then those teams will close out the regular season the following week with the Raiders playing at home against the Chargers. The Browns will be at home against Cincinnati. So like you said, it's an uphill climb for both those teams. They both have to play teams that are ahead of them in the standings. They're not necessarily favorable matchups. Probably the most favorable out of the 6 for those teams, I mean, is the Raiders playing Denver this week if Drew Lock is under center for the Broncos. But other than that, it doesn't look pretty necessarily because we've seen what Indianapolis can do and we've seen what the Chargers can do offensively if they don't, turn the ball over on 4th down. And the Browns have, 2 divisional games, and they have to play Green Bay this week. So it doesn't look favorable for them either. The Browns could be sitting at 7-8 going into week 17 against the Steelers.
Right. Well, did the Browns play the Steelers in the last game of the season?
Nope, they play them in week 17. They play the Bengals in week 18.
Okay. Yeah. So they're going to be. It's going to be a mess for them. So yesterday didn't help, and so that's the way it goes. Meanwhile, today's another day, and it always is. And just like yesterday, we're not getting to them yet, but we have 2 NFL games. But before we get there, we're going to go out and have some fun in the college ranks. And here we go. Our first game up on the docket is the Iona Gales over the Delaware Blue Hens in a game that's not going to be played in either state.
Right. It's played at the UBS Arena, home of Barry Trotz and the Islanders. I guess they want to see if somebody else can win there.
Right.
When you get down to it, both teams played well. I mean, Iona's 9-2. Delaware's 9-3. Iona's won 3 in a row. Delaware's won 5 in a row. But if you look at the difference in competition, Iona's already beaten Alabama, Harvard, and Yale this season. Those are 3 very good teams. I mean, Alabama was ranked in the top 10. It was the first top 10 win for a school from the Metro Atlantic in conference history. Their 2 losses this year came to Kansas and Belmont on a neutral floor. We all know what Kansas can do, and we know Belmont is a dangerous team out of the Ohio Valley. Meanwhile, Delaware's signature win this year came over Appalachian State. They're ranked the Mountaineers are 174th in the KenPom rankings. Their last 5 wins have come over teams that are all ranked below 200 in the KenPom standings. One team is a NAIA school, so it doesn't even matter. Iona is 74th in defensive efficiency, 63rd in effective field goal percentage defense. They defend the perimeter well as they're 17th in 3-point defense at 26.1%. Meanwhile, Delaware is 211th in defensive efficiency. Despite that 5-game win streak against doormats, they only won by an average of 9 points a game, which doesn't really move the needle all that much. They're 155th in effective field goal percentage defense, and they're 249th defending the 3. Delaware 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. Iona 9-1-1 in their last 11 neutral site games as a favorite. They're 4-1 in their last 5 on Tuesday, and they're 19-6-1 in their last 26 overall. You've got to like the coaching matchup. Rick Pitino, obviously, with a world of experience, as opposed to Martin Inglesby, who, while he's done a good job at Delaware, does not have the experience that somebody like Pitino brings to the table. You have to like the Gales, especially playing, it's not right in their own backyard, but it's within shouting distance, so to speak.
Yeah.
Over Delaware.
It's not a long trip from Iona, and frankly, it's not a long trip from Delaware to get there.
John, why can't we pick on the Owls? You're from Massachusetts, for crying out loud. You should be liking the Bruins, and I haven't picked on them in a while yet, so you should be happy about that.
Yeah, there's for those of you out there who are Delaware fans, you know that one of the great things about Delaware, the University of Delaware, is that they have turned out some pretty decent football players and politicians. The present president of the United States, the 46th president of the United States, Joseph Biden, is a graduate of Delaware, as is the former governor of the state of New Jersey, Chris Christie.
So does that mean we can fault the Delaware University or the University of Delaware for putting out bad politicians?
No, I'm just saying they put out equally, Republicans and Democrats find their way to Delaware. So good on them for the University of Delaware, the Blue Hens. And unfortunately, they're going to lose. But you know what? There's always another day, another game. So we move from Iona.
As the saying goes, don't go away mad, Delaware. Just go away.
Just go away, right? And it's it's a nice little bus trip up to the island to play that game at the UBS Center. All right, so we are now headed from the UBS Center, where seemingly no home team wins, to...
We're going to go to the Tar Heel State, where it's a battle of teams from North Carolina, where the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill are going to host Appalachian State from the good old Sun Belt. App State 6-6 this year. The Tar Heels are 8-3. App State is 0-3 on the road this year. North Carolina under Hubert Davis, a perfect 6-0 at home. App State, they're coming off a 92-67 road loss to Duke in a game where they failed to cover as a 22.5-point underdog. North Carolina won 5 in a row before getting creamed by Kentucky, 98-69 over the weekend. That was a game that was scheduled at the last minute after both Ohio State and UCLA dropped out of it's supposed to be a four-team extravaganza. North Carolina is 16th in offensive efficiency. They're 43rd in effective field goal percentage, shooting 54.4% from the floor. They're 48th in scoring offense at 79.4 points a game. They're 41st in field goal percentage, and they're 23rd in shooting from three-point land. Meanwhile, App State is just 22nd in effective field goal percentage defense, and they allow opposing teams to shoot 59.5% from the field inside the arc. That's 355th out of 358 teams in Division I. When you let teams shoot nearly 60% from inside the arc, you're in trouble. I don't care who you are. Mm-hmm. App State 0-4-1 in their last 5 on the road, 0-3-1 in their last 4 against teams with a winning home record, and 0-3-1 in their last 4 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage of greater than 600. You have to like the Tar Heels here. We just saw, like I said, they lost by 25 to Duke on the road. I expect North Carolina to cover the line in that one just because of the fact that Dustin Kern's team can't stop anybody when it comes to shooting twos, and they don't play offense well enough to hang in against anybody.
Well, they're also playing at the Dean Dome, and if you're a kid from North Carolina, and a lot of the App State players are, there's something about walking in that building that is almost, it's almost a shrine. And so I think, App State, besides the fact that they're undermanned against North Carolina, I think there's one of those moments when you walk out there and can't, you've seen the Dean Dome, you've seen the court on television, you've seen those Carolina blue uniforms, and suddenly you're in that moment. And I think that sometimes schools like App State and others, and it happens at UCLA, it happens at all the, the major programs. You walk in and there's something about the fact that you're playing on the same court that some of the greatest players, in all of the ACC and in some cases all of college basketball played on that same court you are now about to play on. And it takes a few minutes to get away from that awe of being in that building.
And by then you're already down double figures.
Right, exactly. It happens. I've seen it happen numerous times where kids come out and they're almost, they're actually taking pictures. Like, hey, I'm at the Dean Dome. I'm playing in the Dean Dome, or I'm playing over at Cameron Indoor where Duke plays, and I've seen it happen up in Syracuse, up at the Dome up there. So it really doesn't matter where you are in the country. If it's one of those storied programs, it's something of a moment. And
like you said, it's a yearbook game.
It is, exactly. It is a yearbook game without question. And I think for App State that they'll be happy to take the check and the yearbook and head back home after it's over.
As they prepare for Sun Belt play starting next week.
Right, yeah. They can't get to that one fast enough. All right, here we go. From there, we move on. And
it's a big matchup of mid-major teams that nobody pays attention to. And this one's out west. Cal State Bakersfield out of the Big West taking on Dartmouth of the Ivy League. Dartmouth is just 3-7 this year. Cal State Bakersfield 4-4. Dartmouth 2-5 on the road. Cal State Bakersfield 3-0 at home this year. Dartmouth is 265th in offensive efficiency, 244th in effective field goal percentage, 335th in offensive rebounding percentage. So don't look for a lot of second chance points. They are 324th in 2-point shooting. Meanwhile, the Roadrunners are 85th in scoring defense, giving up just 63.6 points a game. They're 83rd in field goal percentage at 40.1%, and they're 27th in 2-point field goal percentage defense, holding opponents to 43.7%. Dartmouth, they don't help themselves. They don't get to the free throw line very much. They're second worst in the nation with 0.16 free throw attempts per field goal. They could catch a break here because the Roadrunners, for some reason, love to foul. They are 353rd by giving up a healthy 0.469 free throws per field goal attempt. But Dartmouth just 4-11 in the last 15 after an ATS win. When you're 2-5 on the road, you can't really have a lot of faith in the team. And like you said, people go to Dartmouth more for hockey or education than basketball, which is probably why the Big Green is terrible when it comes to playing on the hardwood.
Right.
Look for the Roadrunners, to improve to 4-0 at home and get a win here in what should be an exciting matchup between teams that nobody likes.
All right, let me ask you a question, and this is surely subjective. If you're Dartmouth, right, and you decide you're going to go west, what in God's name are you doing in Bakersfield? I mean, of all the California teams that you could play, you're going to Bakersfield?
I guess Pepperdine was busy. In fact, they're playing Oregon tonight.
It's like, or St. Mary's is, couldn't get scheduled yet or something. But you would think, but Dartmouth, with the alumni base that they have, they could probably, push some sway and get them maybe a game against a UCLA or USC, or hell, even Long Beach State would be a nice trip. But Bakersfield, really?
I guess it could have been worse. They could have put them up.
That's true. They could have went to Encino.
They could have faced Sacramento State.
That's true. But just saying, just to keep up the food situation, if you happen to be in Bakersfield, they have something that's very unique. And what happens in Bakersfield that's unique is there's actually a McDonald's built into an old railroad car. So you go to the railroad car and it is a McDonald's. That might be the only redeeming social value site in Bakersfield. So on your way to Vegas from Los Angeles, you zoom by Bakersfield. All right.
Like I said, if you're in Bakersfield, leave.
Yeah. So, all right. Now that we've pissed off everyone in Bakersfield, it's time to move on. And we move on to...
Yes, that's right. It's hockey season. There's only one game now because about an hour ago, the Capitals and Flyers were postponed due to a COVID issue with the Capitals.
Here's what it would have liked had they played.
Yeah, if we were going to tell you to take Washington over the Flyers, because in the Washington 9-3-3 on the road this year, the Flyers are a 500 team at home. Flyers are 25th in goals per game and 22nd in goals against. Washington had won the last 4 meetings in Philadelphia and 6 of the last 8. And the Flyers are 1-9 in the last 10 as an underdog. However, that game will not take place, so we will now take you to the lone NHL game that you will see between now and after Christmas. As in case you didn't know, the league decided to close down early for the holidays with all the COVID issues, as roughly 15% of the players in the league are in the protocols right now. And that is Tampa Bay and Vegas. For some reason, it doesn't matter what goes on in Sin City, they play anyway.
Right.
The Lightning is an underdog, surprisingly, on the road here. It's battle of 2 hot teams. The Lightning have won 7 of the last 8. Vegas has won 8 of their last 9. Tampa Bay 9-3-2 on the road this season. Vegas is 10-6 at home. Tampa Bay is 11th in goals per game and 7th in goals against, while Vegas, despite being 4th in goals per game at 3.48, they are just 20th by giving up 3.03 goals a night. Tampa Bay 4-1 in their last 5 on the road, 5-2 in their last 7 against Western Conference teams. They're 37-15 in the last 52 against Pacific Division opponents. when it comes right down to it, in a battle of two teams that have good offenses, I like Andre Vasilevsky a little bit more than I like Robin Leonard in this game. And
Yeah,
that's why I'm going to take the Lightning as the road team and an underdog at that to knock off Vegas and send the rest of the league to the holiday break and leave all of us that actually like watching hockey on TV
right.
extremely bored.
Yeah, watching the NHL Network for some replays of games. Yeah, it's odd. For some reason, when Tampa Bay plays against Vegas, they have some matchup problems. I don't think that it's going to affect them winning, but you would think that the Golden Knights would be a team that Tampa Bay could handle easily, but they're kind of like just a little bit of a thorn in the side. Tampa Bay usually wins, but it normally is not by a lot.
Well, but I mean, Vegas, like I said, they're no slouch of a team. They won 8 out of 9 coming in.
Yeah.
And to your point, Vegas actually won the last meeting, which came back on February 20th of 2020 by a 5-3 count. But obviously the teams are a lot different. Also, Mark Stone questionable tonight with an upper body injury. He missed their last game, and they're not sure if he'll play tonight.
But, to your point, if Vasilevsky has been very hot as of late, and, there's nothing you like better when you're betting on hockey than to have a hot goaltender, and Vasilevsky is hot.
Yeah, you can't argue with a 16-4-3 record and a goals against of 2.1.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. That's definitely take that to the bank. All right, so we've gone to the one game on the pond. It's time to go to the association, and from there we go to.
Yeah, the Knicks and the Pistons. There you go, John. We won't pick on the Knicks. How's that? Since you said we can't pick on the Islanders, we won't pick on the Knicks either because they're playing the Pistons. The Pistons snapped a 14-game losing streak over the weekend. They beat Miami 100-90, and you have to feel bad for Eric Spoelstra without Jimmy Butler, Markieff Morris, Bam Adebayo, and company. Derrick Rose is a game-time decision for the Knicks tonight, while R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin, Kevin Knox, Emmanuel Quickley, and Kenton Grimes are in the health and safety protocols. The Pistons still the worst team in the East at 5-24. They're one game worse than the awesome Orlando Magic, who are 6-25, and they're 2-12 on the road this year. Meanwhile, the Pistons will be without Jeremy Grant, their leading scorer, who's still out until mid-January with a thumb injury. Kelly Olynyk also still out with that knee injury he suffered last month. The Pistons second and worst in the league in scoring offense at 100.4 points per game. They're second worst in field goal percentage. And just to make sure that they're not left out, they're worst in three-point shooting. Meanwhile, the Pistons also 16-33-2 against the spread in their last 51 following an ATS win. They're 14-35-3 in their last 52 following a straight-up win. Meanwhile, the Knicks are 8-1 in their last night on Tuesday. They're 9-3-1 in their last 13 on 2 days of rest. The Knicks have won the last 5 meetings against the spread between these teams, and they've covered in 24 of the last 33 meetings at Madison Square Garden. Always nice to see everybody like Joan, T-Nice, and John. Surprised that we haven't seen Nathan or Eular yet, but I guess maybe Eular's lamenting the fact that the Cactus had their game against the Kraken postponed last night, taking that out of the equation because I know he gets a kick out of when we talk about the Coyotes.
Well, it's still early. They can still show up. A lot of people are out Christmas shopping, but it is. We do realize that there's only 4 more shopping days till Christmas, so we'll cut you a break this time. We're basically calling attendance, but if you don't make it today, we get it. By the way, if you happen to be here, do us a favor. Wander over there and smash that like button and hit that subscribe button because it really does make us feel good that you like what we're doing and that you want to see us again. So by all means, if you want to give us something for Christmas, give us a like and a subscribe. That would be very, very easy. You don't have to wrap it. And it's, no shipping, no handling, very simple. And you don't have to wait for the Amazon guy to show up at your front door. So all of that happened. So all you have to do is hit that button that you like us and that subscribe button. And now my shameless plugs are over, and back to the association.
Yep, and it's going to be, I like the Suns tonight over the Lakers. That game is going to be at whatever they're planning on calling the artist formerly known as the Staples Center, because I always forget what they're going to call it, the crypto something. Either way, the Suns have won 3 in a row, 5 of 6, and 23 of their last 25. They've got Devin Booker back in the mix now after he returned Sunday after missing 7 games. Meanwhile, the Lakers have dropped 2 in a row after losing at Chicago 115-110 on Sunday night. Anthony Davis is out about a month with a knee injury, while Malik Monk, Dwight Howard, Taylor Horton Tucker, Kent Bazemore, Austin Reeves, and Avery Bradley are all in the health and safety protocols for Los Angeles, thinning out what was already a rather weak back end of the rotation. The Suns are third in the league in scoring offense at 111.9 points per game. They lead the league in field goal percentage, and they're fourth in three-point shooting. Meanwhile, the Lakers are 27th in scoring defense at 111.3, and they're 28th in rebounding, giving up 47.6 boards a night. The Suns are 4-1 in their last 5 overall, 4-1 against an opponent that gives up at least 100 points in their last game, 4-1 against in their last 5 when their opponent puts up at least 100. Meanwhile, the Lakers 3-10 in their last 13 against teams with a winning record, and 2-7 in their last 9 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. You have to like the Suns here, especially getting Booker back. Chris Paul's probable tonight with a hand injury. Like I said, meanwhile, Davis and seemingly half of the Lakers rotation missing in action tonight. LeBron James has struggled most of the season. Russell Westbrook shoots the ball about as well as Rajon Rondo does from the outside. It's hard to have any faith in the Lakers right now. And to answer your question, Joan, no, Jim's not having a Zoom issue. His camera broke because Tom Brady threw it.
All right. The thing with the Lakers, I don't know if anybody saw it, but if you didn't, go out and Google. Dwayne Wade put up an Instagram post of LeBron James, and he looks like he's 300 years old, and it's a hilarious meme. And it's been making its way all around social media about the fact that Dwayne Wade says that I can tell my kids I used to play with this guy whenever I was in the NBA. So they're the graybeards of the Los Angeles Lakers now have become, you're in trouble when they start making memes out of you. And
when you start to look like Keith Richards, it's not a good sign when you're
no, definitely is never a good sign. And LeBron has a way. I mean, LeBron's only 38 years old, so he's not old, but in basketball years, 38 is pretty old. So, and remember the fact that LeBron came right out of high school, so he's played in the association his entire career.
Right.
So, that's there are a few that have done that, but very few who have been as successful at it as he has, but a lot of good guys out there. So that was the Lakers and that was the Suns. And now we're going to
Dallas, where the Timberwolves are a 1-point underdog on the road to face Mark Cuban's Mavs. These teams just met Sunday in Minneapolis, and the Timberwolves picked up a 111-105 win there. Minnesota's won 4 in a row, which is interesting to say the least. The Mavericks have dropped 6 of 9. Anthony Edwards, Patrick Beverley, and Taurean Prince are out for Minnesota. Meanwhile, Luka Doncic won't play again with an ankle injury. Maxi Kleba, Reggie Bullock, Josh Green, and Willie Cauley-Stein are all out for Dallas. Kristaps Porzingis is a game-time decision with an ankle injury. Minnesota, they've gone 4-0 ATS in their last 4 overall. They're 4-0 in their last 4 when their opponent allows at least 100 points in their last game, which obviously happened since they played each other, and we saw that Minnesota hung 111. Meanwhile, Minnesota 6-1 in their last 7 against teams with a losing record. The Mavs just 2-6 in their last 8 after scoring at least 100 points, and 1-4 in their last 5 as a home favorite. Without Doncic, the Mavericks have really struggled. I mean, I know that he seemed to be out of shape, which was part of the reason why he's been out for conditioning purposes. But the fact remains that, without him and then with Porzingis in and out of the lineup, it really makes things difficult for the Mavs. I understand that Edwards is out for Minnesota, but they've gotten production from other guys. You got D'Angelo Russell came back. Karl Anthony Towns had a big game against the Lakers on Friday night. And you have to like the way Minnesota's playing right now.
You're right. And the other part of this, which, is, as the old saying goes, not for nothing, is that the Mavs continue to be, that's what I'm trying to say. The Mavs continue to be woefully inconsistent. And that's never a good thing to wager when you don't know what Mavs team is going to show up on any given night.
Right. It's kind of like it seems to run rampant in Dallas because the Stars are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Must be playing in that building.
Must be that, and the water. You never know. It could be that Harris County water over there. They're not having the Texans are having trouble keeping people off the scoreboard. So yeah, it's been crazy, but inconsistency for the Mavs has pretty much been the byline for that team all season long. And like I said, the inconsistency is not a good thing to have when you're placing a bet. All right, so where are we going now, boss?
Well, now we get to go to bowl season.
Yay! All right, here we go.
The Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl. That's right. It's the number 24 San Diego State Aztecs, a 3-point favorite over the number 22 ROCK and the UTSA Roadrunners. That's right. The Roadrunners finished the year 12-1. They won the Conference USA title by beating Western Kentucky in a barn burner. San Diego State finished 11-2 on the year. Big news for this one: Sincere McCormick, who led Conference USA and was 6th in the country with 1,479 rushing yards, is out. He declared that he's going to declare for the NFL draft and decided he wasn't going to play in the bowl game, which swung this line because UTSA opened as a 2.5 or 3-point favorite. It's now swung the other way to San Diego State by 3. One big thing for the Aztecs: they're second in the nation in rush defense, giving up 77.7 yards a game. The only team better than them against the run, of course, is Georgia. UTSA, they're 27th in total offense and 12th in scoring offense, giving up 37.8 points scoring 37.8 points per game. Meanwhile, San Diego State, 14th in total defense, giving up 319.6 yards a game, 17th in scoring defense at 19.5 points a game. But they are susceptible to giving up big plays in the passing game. They finished 90th by giving up 242 yards per game through the air. So UTSA will need a big showing from quarterback Frank Harris. One thing to note, in San Diego State's 2 losses this season, they gave up more than 300 yards through the air. Those losses coming to Jake Haener and Fresno State, and then Utah State in the Mountain West title game. But when you get right down to it, you're looking at a very good Aztecs defense. They've done a great job on that side of the ball in recent years. They're 5-1-1 in their last 7 after a straight-up loss, 4-1-1 in their last 6 after an ATS defeat. They're 8-2 in their last 10 non-conference games, and 8-3 in their last 11 after scoring less than 20 points in their last game. UTSA hasn't won a bowl game since coming up to the FBS. Without McCormick, it's going to be an uphill climb. I like the Aztecs giving 3 points in this one as they prevail.
Well, they're playing actually in their home stadium, which is not something to hurt them.
True.
It's the Toyota facility out there. It's a soccer building, basically. It seats 20,000. It's really pretty. Anytime you get to go to San Diego, it's always fun. So absolutely. San Diego, although, you got to give props to the University of Texas, San Antonio, because they've really made some amazing strides over the past few years. Once they
Jeff Trainer's done a great job there, but without McCormick, they're going to have to find Brendan Brady and BJ Daniels are going to have to step up and try to move the ball on the ground. But you were trying to replace a guy that ran for nearly 1,500 yards. That's not easy going for anybody. Right.
And you mentioned really the most important point about this game, and that is that the losses that San Diego State did have were, they weren't slouch games. They were, they lost to good teams who had good players. So, playing at home and enjoying the fact that they've got a lot of, I'm sure the vast majority of that crowd's going to be on their side. That's going to make it for very nice. But you know what? I don't know about you, Chris, but this is one of those bowl games where that might just be worth tuning in because you've got two entertaining teams you probably haven't seen yet.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're not necessarily games you're going to see on TV unless you'd like to watch Conference USA. Like I said, then you could have seen that barn burner we talked about a couple weeks ago with Western Kentucky.
On Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about Bailey Zappi and what Western Kentucky has done all season.
Right.
And I think, speaking of Zappi, he's going to be a steal for somebody come the NFL draft because he only played one season at a quasi mid-major program, but he set the record for passing yards and passing touchdowns, broke Joe Burrow's record,
right,
throwing 62 scores. So you can't go wrong with that.
No, I mean, and he's a big kid too. So it's one of those things where he might be a third or fourth round draft choice, but he's got the arm. I saw him throw a couple of balls, easy 60 yards, on the run, and that's crazy. I mean, you had an arm like that. That's just insane.
Yeah.
I had an arm like that at San Diego State since Steven Strasburg was pitching. So it's
and coming from Houston Baptist, nobody knew what to expect from that guy coming in.
Right. Right. And sometimes you find those sleepers, and that might be one of them. You hit the nail on the head. Some NFL team might find themselves a sleeper from this kid. So, all right, well, check that game out. By the way, that used to be the Holiday Bowl for those of you who are of an age, of which I am an age. And they used to play it at Jack Murphy Stadium, which doesn't exist anymore in San Diego. So
the good old Murph.
The old Murph. All right, so that's one bowl game. Let's move on to the next one.
Yes, and that's the famous Idaho Potato Bowl in your favorite place, Jim, the blue turf of Albertson Stadium up in Boise.
I like Boise. Don't get me wrong. I said blue turf, it drives me nuts. But yeah, okay.
Yep, Wyoming favored by 3.5 over Kent State. Kent State finished the year 7-6. They lost the MAC title game to Northern Illinois. Meanwhile, Wyoming was 6-6 on the season. Kent State was 8th in the nation in total offense, picking up 480.8 yards per game. They're 4th in rushing offense and 36th in scoring by putting up 32.6 points a game. But they're facing a good Wyoming defense. Craig Bowles done a good job with things there. Cowboys 38th in total defense. They're 9th against the pass, and they're 37th in scoring defense, only allowing 22.5 points per game. Now, we talked about this last week. Everybody talked about orange is the new black, and we said that the MAC is the new Big 12 as far as not playing defense, and Kent State bears that out. They're 122nd in total defense on the year, giving up 467 yards per game. They're 123rd against the pass. They're 106th against the rush. And just for good measure, to make sure that they don't just give up empty yards, they're 119th in scoring defense, giving up 35.1 points a game. Kent State just 2-6 in their last 8 non-conference games. They're 1-6 in their last 7 as an underdog. Wyoming 5-1 in their last 6 bowl games. 5-1 in their last 6 in December, and 5-1 in their last 6 against on neutral site games. And they're 3-1-1 in their last 5 against the MAC. Now, bowl, like I said, Wyoming had only won one bowl game from, I believe it was 1980 through 2015. Mm-hmm. They've already won 2 in the last 4 years under Craig Bowl, and I look for him to make it 3 out of 5 with a victory today over the Golden Flashes, just because, like we said, Kent State can't stop anybody. Dustin Crum and company may have their hands full trying to move the ball against the Wyoming defense, and that could help the Cowboys steal one on the blue turf, especially since they're more familiar with playing up there than obviously Kent State.
They definitely been there before. And, we have to stay true to Wyoming because, Wyoming's basketball team was good to us the past couple of weeks. So we have to, give our cowboy hat to the Wyoming guys. And as far as Kent State is concerned, I mean, it's a gorgeous campus and it's about a 45 minutes drive away from Cleveland. And in some regards, you're looking at the Kent State team in many ways like the Cleveland Browns. This is a team that is it's not built to play the kind of football they're going to have to play against Wyoming. The MAC is not, there's not, I don't know, physically the MAC is not a physical conference.
Oh, no, the MAC is, the equivalent of of the Suns during the 7 seconds or less era where everybody scores in like 45 seconds.
Right.
You
And,
see a lot of 50 to 48 games there.
right. Well, they've spent a lot of time and effort getting the skill players who might not have made a Big Ten school, and that's where they've made their money, which is okay. But when you come up, like you said, against a Wyoming team that's as strong as they are, you really don't want to have the inability to be physical. And trust me, my friends, Wyoming will be physical.
And Michael, I'm glad to see that St. Thomas pick that you asked about yesterday came in. We talked about that facing Nebraska Omaha.
Uh-huh.
They were given 3.5 points. They ended up winning 80-73 in a game that they were up comfortably at halftime. ODU, if you got them as a teaser at plus 16, that panned out. But if you had taken them on the line originally, it wouldn't have. And like you said, over 46.5 since it was 30-17. That was a hit too. So glad it all worked out for you. Nathan, I hope that you did take Wagner over Delaware State like we talked about, because Wagner was up 30-some points at halftime in that game and rolled all over the Hornets. I know you said that you like to bet against Delaware State. So you should probably stick with that and bet against Delaware too. Yeah, just go for the whole state.
Yeah, might as well. Pay for the state. Not a big idea. It's not a big state, so it's not going to take long. So, all right. So we have 2 bowl games. We had the association. We had the one game on Frozen Pond. We had the games in college basketball, and now for a rare doubleheader, football on Tuesday. So here we go.
Yeah, we got the Rams and the Seahawks in an NFC West battle from Los Angeles. Seahawks 5-8 this year. The Rams 9-4. Rams starting to right the ship after that horrible losing streak where they lost 3 in a row. The Rams have won 7 of the last 9 meetings between these teams. They won 26-17 back on October 7th in a game where that's when Russell Wilson got hurt and you had to watch Geno Smith come in to finish up. The Seahawks 3-4 on the road. The Rams are 4-2 at home. Seattle is dead last in the league in total defense, giving up 394.9 yards per game. They're last against the pass, which doesn't work well when you're facing a Rams offense that's 3rd in the league in passing offense behind the arm of Matthew Stafford. Despite giving up all those yards, though, the Seahawks are just 4th in scoring defense, giving up 20.2 points per game. There'll be a test for a Rams offense that's 4th in the league by scoring 28.2 points a night. Seattle 3-11 in their last 14 after a straight-up win. They're 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 after putting up at least 30 points. And they're 0-4 in their last 4 on the road against teams with a winning home record. Meanwhile, the Rams 9-3-1 against the spread in their last 13 in December. They're 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings overall, and they're 7-2 in the last 9 meetings where they're the home team. You have to think that the Rams will take care of business here, put more pressure on the Cardinals in that suddenly crowded NFC West race with Arizona reeling, and tighten things up with 3 weeks to go in the regular season.
Well, I like this being played at SoFi. I think that benefits the Rams a lot because playing up in Seattle can be there's going to be bad weather in north. The Pacific Northwest and actually about north from San Francisco north, it's going to be really rainy, bad weather. So I think that, the Rams lucked out in that regard. They didn't have to play up there. But you have to wonder, right? The questions about the Seahawks beyond, this year is, will Russell Wilson come back? Will Pete Carroll come back? I mean, this is not, for years, the Seahawks just kind of coasted along, doing well, and everybody was loving on Pete and Russell. And now, we're hearing rumblings that Russell's on his way out of town, and we're hearing that this might be the swan song for Pete. So it's an interesting situation going on up in Seattle, and playing tonight is not going to make it any easier.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. The Seahawks overcommitted by trading away so much draft capital to get Jamal Adams.
Right.
thinking that he was going to rekindle the Legion of Boom. It doesn't matter when you can't stop anybody with the pass because you can't get a pass rush.
Right.
You're leaving your corners out there to be hung out to dry. Adams hasn't really made as much of an impact as he did with the Jets, which is scary because let's face it, the Jets weren't very good. And but he's been less impactful playing in Seattle than he was in his entire time with Gang Green.
That's a good point. And I don't know. It's this is one of those things where people forget that the early part of the Pete Carroll era in Seattle, he had a general manager. Then it came time for the renegotiation of his contract, and when he became when he renegotiated his contract, he took over sole ownership of that whole operation. So he became what Bill Parcells, did when he moved to Dallas, and some of the other coaches in the National Football League, Mike Holmgren, when he was at Green Bay. They found out they were very good coaches when someone else was general manager, but they found out that they became normal coaches whenever they were also the general manager. And so I think, the old saying that Bill Parcells used to say, that you can't expect me to cook the meal if I don't buy the groceries, seems to be a theory that isn't working and hasn't seemed to work for a very long time.
Yeah, and Nathan just pointed out, too, another game that's been canceled on the docket tonight in college basketball. Indiana-Purdue-Fort Wayne was supposed to take on Michigan tonight. That game now off due to COVID issues.
Shoot. Yeah.
So much for the Mastodons getting a chance to take on the Wolverines.
I was looking forward to that. Oh, man. I'll have to figure out something else to watch. Netflix, likely. All right, so there's another game, I should say, between two teams that are I-95 rivals, and they're playing it at the link, and it's the Washington football team and the Eagles.
Yeah, and I think this line's actually moved because last time when I did this earlier this morning, early afternoon, it was 6.5. I think the line has actually gone up since then. Let me double check. It is now going at Philadelphia is favored by 8.5 over the football team. Jim, have you gotten any updates as to whether Kyle Allen or Taylor Heineke has cleared protocol yet?
No.
Last I knew, they were still sitting in Washington waiting to see if they were going to clear.
Yeah, they're still there. So
if neither of them start or clear, you'll see Garrett Gilbert, who was just signed off the Patriots practice squad, to start at quarterback for the football team. J.D. McKissick, Curtis Samuel, and Brandon Scherf are all out Tuesday for Washington. Meanwhile, Philadelphia will have Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, and Jordan Howard back this week. I guess the one plus for Washington, Terry McLaurin cleared concussion protocols. He's expected to play tonight. Whether they'll have anybody to throw him the ball remains to be seen. The football team 8-20 in their last 28 after a straight-up loss. They're 2-6 after an ATS loss. They're 2-5 against teams with a losing record, and they're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 against NFC East teams. The Eagles are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 as a favorite. They're 4-1 in their last 5 against NFC opponents. They're 5-2 in their last 7 after picking up at least 350 yards of offense, and they're 6-2 in their last 8 meetings in this series. Obviously, if Washington was healthier, you'd have a little more faith in the football team. They were playing well before falling to Dallas and stuff in the last couple of weeks. But now with so many guys out due to COVID and everything, and not having any certainty who's going to be under center, it's hard to have a ton of faith in Washington this week. And it could be the end of the line for the football team as far as the playoff chase goes.
Yeah, the other thing too is you have that combination of COVID issues, but you also have that combination of injuries.
Right.
So, that doesn't help you either. And, Philadelphia's not a good football team, but they don't have to be a good football team if Washington is in depleted state. And I think we're going to see a game tonight that's going to look a lot like the Raiders and the Browns game.
Yeah, I'm not expecting an offensive extravaganza
Yeah.
by any stretch
I
of
don't
it.
know what the under is, but I would think the under is probably a very safe bet today.
It has moved to, let me double check here. It has moved from, it opened at 43. It's at 40 and a half or 41, depending on which book you look at.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to see a lot of points scored today. It's just neither of those teams. I mean, Jalen Hurts and some. I mean, he's had some decent games, but inconsistency on his part. If you don't know who's going to, they may have to pull Brian Mitchell out of the broadcast booth to come down and quarterback for.
Well, I guess it'll either be Gilbert or Kyle Shermer, who's on the practice squad.
So yeah, I forgot about him.
Have to wait and see who they decide to stick under. Maybe they'll play both of them.
They might in the same time. We'll see, but yeah, I don't know. I just checked while you were talking, and there hasn't been an update. At least I haven't been able to find an update on what's going on with Heineke and those guys. But we will see how it goes. But you're right. Doesn't much matter who's out there playing wide receiver if you can't get the ball to them.
That's true, and that's going to be a big issue for Washington, especially without McKissick, because he's a valuable safety valve out of the backfield.
Yeah,
a lot more pressure on Antonio Gibson.
He's been a nice little surprise for them because they just kind of picked him up out of nowhere.
So, yeah, because he used to play in Seattle, and Seattle barely used him.
Yep. Well, see, one person's someone who you don't use is somebody who can be a star on another team. You never know. All right, so we've now come to the big three part of the show, the ones that everybody's waiting for. I know you're all out there. I know you're excited. So without any further ado, the Avatar is going to push off to two for the money.
Yeah, like we said, the Rams minus 7.5 over the Seahawks. Seattle's going nowhere fast. Obviously now it looks like Rashad Penny is going to take over the running back spot for the Seahawks over Alex Collins. Then I like Iona over Delaware. Like we said, Iona are beating some good teams, and their two losses are to good teams, while Delaware is beaten, well, let's be honest, nobody. And then when you've got Rick Pitino coaching for you, that gives you a major advantage as well. Look for the Gales to beat the Blue Hens. I also like we just talked about, the Eagles over the football team. Obviously, that line has moved now since I put this together. But it doesn't matter because with Washington having no quarterback, you have to wonder how well they'll move the ball. And the Suns over the Lakers. The Lakers haven't been good defensively all season. And the Suns, they're excellent offensively. They play well defensively. They play team basketball. That's something the Lakers are allergic to. Look for the Suns to go on the road and prevail in that one.
All right. Well, we've done two for the money. It's time to go for four for the show.
Yeah, this one I had to put together after Washington and Philadelphia decided they weren't going to play hockey tonight. So I like UConn minus 4.5 over Marquette. I haven't been sold on the Golden Eagles. They lost to Wisconsin. They lost to Xavier at home. I like the way UConn's played. They hung tough even without Adama Sanogo against West Virginia. I like the Huskies here. Like we said, San Diego State over UTSA in the Frisco Bowl. And that matchup, without Sincere McCormick, is going to put a lot of pressure on UTSA's rush offense. Minnesota +1 over Dallas. Like we said, the Mavericks have struggled. Minnesota's won 4 in a row. They just beat Dallas at home. They should be able to beat them on the road. And Tampa Bay going on the road to beat Vegas in a battle of high-scoring offensive units. You have to think that Vasilevsky can outduel Leonard and get the win for the Lightning heading into this now a little bit more extended break than what the NHL was planning for originally due to all the issues with COVID impacting players around the league.
Mm-hmm. And as we get ready for the big one, here's the deal, guys. As the Avatar talks, we're talking about, this is the one where you get to play Chinese restaurant. You get to look at the menu. You get to decide I'll take 4 of those or 2 of these, or I'll just take a whole slew of them. So Chris has put together the perfect parlay Chinese menu, and now from me to the Iron Chef himself, Chris King. Go ahead, Mr. Chef.
Well, at least I'm not the Iron Sheik, so that works.
That's true, yeah.
We'll start out with everybody's favorite because I figured that John would have asked about this one since Morehead State is playing everybody's favorite under machine, IUPUI. Look for that one to stay under 118 points, despite the fact that Morehead State has gone over in their last 3 games. We all know the Jaguars don't score very many points. So look for another under extravaganza there. Iowa State is at home. They're favored by 4 touchdowns over Chicago State, the team that beat IUPUI in that rock fight last week. The Cyclones are undefeated. Chicago State, well, let's just say they're not undefeated. And Iowa State should probably win this one by closer to 40 when you get right down to it. The Cyclones have played very good basketball in the first month plus of the season. I think Villanova -5 at home over Xavier. I know Villanova lost to Baylor. They also lost last week again. But the fact remains that they've won the last 5 matchups at home against Xavier. They've won 7 of the last 10 matchups, period, with the Musketeers. It's going to be a tight game, but Xavier has had their issues playing in the city of brotherly love in recent years. Travis Steele's one loss this year was a 12-point defeat on a neutral floor to Iowa State. But this is their first major road test. I mean, the only other road game they've had this season was at Oklahoma State back in early December, and we've talked about Oklahoma State already lost at home this year to Oakland and Wichita State and Xavier and went to overtime to beat Cleveland State. So it's not like that was a marquee win by any stretch of the imagination. I like Santa Clara -6.5 on the road over San Jose State. The Spartans have struggled for several years now. They haven't been able to put anything together with any sort of consistency. In the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, like we said, Wyoming -3.5 over Kent State. Wyoming's not a great offensive team. They rely on defense, but Kent State doesn't play defense. So that should help Wyoming's offense move the ball and put points on the board. Tampa Bay and Vegas, I expect to go over 5.5. There's just too much offense on both of those teams to see this be a 2-1, 3-2 type of game. I expect it to be 4-2, 4-3, something like that, pushing it over the number. The Knicks -7.5 over the Pistons. Like I said, you can't have faith in a Pistons team that's 5-24 on the year, 2-12 on the road. Kemba Walker actually got back in the rotation over the weekend and scored 29 points in a win for the Knicks. So New York playing at home, they've had great success against Detroit in recent years. They should continue that here. In the game that nobody really wants to watch, but it'll be on TV somewhere, Portland is a 2-point underdog on the road against New Orleans. Portland is 2-11 on the road, but they are coming off that road win over Memphis over the weekend. New Orleans, they still look lost without Zion Williamson. Lillard is a game-time decision for Portland. McCollum is still a week or so away, but with the way New Orleans has played this season, look for Portland to find a way to steal one in the Big Easy. And I look for the Seahawks and the Rams to stay under 46.5. The first meeting had 43 points, and that was due to some late offense. They've stayed under the total in 3 out of the last 4 meetings. I don't expect the Seahawks to do a ton offensively. I don't expect the Rams to need to do a ton offensively, and this one ends up short of the mark.
Well, there you go. I did go back real quick and do a quick check to make sure that the latest information that we had, and at this moment, as of 2:29 on on Tuesday, the game tonight, Washington is set to play without either of their number 1 or number 2 quarterbacks. And the ironic thing is the question mark in Philadelphia is, will Jalen Hurts start or will it be Gardner Minshew? Because there has been some quarterback controversy that that Minshew gives them the better chance to win. And so there's controversy on both sides of the ball. in Philly, but then again, it wouldn't be Philly if it wasn't controversy. So,
That's true.
it's doesn't matter whether it's hockey, basketball, football, tiddlywinks. In Philadelphia, they'll find controversy even if there isn't any.
Well, you got to remember this is the place that threw snowballs and batteries at Santa Claus.
Right. It also was the only place in the NFL that had a jail in the stadium. So, and
let's not forget that they cheered when Michael Irvin got hurt there.
Right. I mean, the old Vet used to be a terrible place to play under the best of circumstances, and toward the end, that was far from the best of circumstances. But anyway,
Nathan, I don't expect Morehead State will hang 118 by themselves just because of the fact that IUPUI will slow that game to so slow of a crawl that they'll fall. Morehead State will fall asleep sometimes at playing offense because they'll be so long between the times when they got the ball. It'll remind people of when Dean Smith used to run the four corners and run 6 or 7 minutes off the clock because there was no shot clock.
Yeah, remember those scores like 12 to 11 or 22 to 21 or something like that?
When they beat Wilt Chamberlain, what was it, 54 to 53 in triple overtime or something?
Right. It was pretty wild, but yeah, that was the way it was. Thank goodness we have a shot clock in college basketball. In some cases, as you just pointed out, it doesn't matter because they can't shoot, so it doesn't matter whether you can shoot in 30 seconds or 40 seconds. But definitely. But anyway, our latest update for the game this evening in Philly. Definitely Washington at this point is not going to play with the quarterbacks that they have been all year long. And Philadelphia is going to take the two guys they've had all year long and fight over which one gives them the best chance to win. So it is controversy, but it would be controversy, as we said before, if it wasn't Philadelphia playing Washington. They tend to do that in pretty much every sport that they play each other, and they play each other in pretty much every sport. So there you go. It's like life in the I-95 corridor, folks. Doesn't change. All right. Well, we've had a lot of fun. Any final thoughts, Chris? Anything that you like more than anything else, or just a couple?
I mean, now that you have to think that people would like Philadelphia, given the fact that Washington has a guy that hasn't played all season under center. It's got to be disconcerting for Ron Rivera, for sure, to go into such a pivotal game with nothing for a game plan.
Oh, he'll come up with something. That's Riverboat Ron is not at a lack of, and I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm just saying he'll come up with something. Perhaps, and you never know, okay? The silver lining here is the quarterback who will be under center. Jersey that he wore for the past few months has been that of the New England Patriots. So maybe some of that Patriot luck will, rub off on him. You never know.
Maybe he won't throw the ball either.
That's a good point. But here's the thing that I want to say before we get out of here. I never thought I would say in the same sentence that a team was anguishing over whether to start Gardner Minshew or Jalen Hurts. That phrase and those two players never came to my mind that you'd have to fight over which one of them gave you the best opportunity to win.
True. I mean, like you said, Minshew adds more dimension to the passing game, but Hurts' ability to run and create plays with his legs and extend plays creates a different dynamic for the defense or for opposing defenses to deal with.
Well, in Washington, since they have their problems are on the outside, right? You would think that they go, okay, Jalen Hurts he'll drive them nuts. But I don't know. I'm not coaching either team, and they didn't ask. So it is what it is. And we will just sit back and count the money when it's over. That's just the way it works.
Yep, and like I said, my favorite pick tonight, look for Iona to beat Delaware at the UBS Arena. Just have no faith in the Blue Hens when they've beaten absolutely nobody. On the plus side, if they win tonight, then they can say they beat somebody. But until then, ride with Rick Pitino and the Gales in the shadows of their own home arena as they prevail to go to 10-2 on the year.
Well, in honor of Life with the Ricardos, which is now playing on and now streaming on Prime Video, I'm always a fan of Little Ricky, and Little Ricky is coaching Iona tonight, and Little Ricky will come home with a win from the UBS Center. which is more than we said earlier Barry Trotz can say. So anyway, folks, it's been a lot of fun. We hope that you've had fun. We'll be back here tomorrow at 1:30. Avatar Jim won't be, but real Jim will be. And the always real Chris King will be. So we're all going to be back here tomorrow, 1:30, for your pleasure. Bring a friend. And if you miss us, don't worry. You can always catch us right here on tape delay and, on the on demand. So just have fun. Have a great day.
Don't forget Steen and Reichel coming up next at 3.
That's right, because, you can never have too much of those boys, and they'll be here soon. So back to the window with Steve and Steve right here on your Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. Until tomorrow, for Chris King, I'm Avatar Jim saying see ya.